I struggled to find my voice, barely managing to speak, merely echoing the words of my mother-in-law, Aria. That's exactly what I mean. If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened. I do not acknowledge you as Noel's wife. You're not suitable. That's what I mean. Why? Why all of a sudden? Why say such things? I questioned, bewildered by the sudden onslaught of accusations. It's a problem that you've lied this long without understanding such things. Realize it. It's true what they say, children from low-level single-parent homes have issues. Seeing you has only reinforced that belief, Aria continued, her words cutting deep. My name is Sierra, a 35-year-old office worker living with my husband and elementary school-aged child. A family of 3. Since the beginning of my marriage, we've lived close to my husband Noel's family home. We maintained a good relationship while keeping a comfortable distance. The turning point in our relationship with father-in-law and Aria came a few years ago when father-in-law passed away after a long illness. Aria's grief at losing him was painfully evident. Considering Noel's commute, we planned to move, but seeing Aria's condition made leaving her alone worrisome. Noel and I discussed it many times. We decided to stay put until Aria's situation stabilized. That's when it started. Slowly but surely, Aria began to overstep our personal space. When father-in-law was alive, she never visited our home unnecessarily. She never came unannounced, not as far as I knew. But now, she suddenly started showing up without any notice. It began as a day or two, but recently she's at our house half the week. If only she gave prior notice, I could bear it. But entertaining Aria when she's so unpleasant is disheartening, especially since she only brings unpleasant conversations. Sierra, you're always home late, aren't you? Are you that busy with work? Are you taking proper care of Noel? Aria's words felt like barbs, each one piercing deeper. What exactly do you mean by proper care? I managed to interject. Just what I said. Are you serving nutritious meals and looking after his health? Aria's gaze pierced through me, demanding an answer. Noel is the pillar of our family, my precious son, I responded, trying to defend myself. Sierra, you're not just serving him frozen meals and hot deli food because you're short on time, are you? Aria's accusatory tone filled the room. I glanced at the freezer, feeling the weight of her judgment. Oh, well, not always, but sometimes yes. Not having time is just an excuse. Stop making excuses, Sierra. Show some responsibility as a homemaker in charge of your family's health. Aria lectured, her words like a relentless barrage. Aria, a longtime middle school teacher, always judged everything by her standards without considering others. Since a minor incident in middle school due to my family background, I've had a poor impression of teachers, including Aria. I couldn't say anything and just listen during her lectures, maybe seeming unreliable. But as Aria's behavior gradually changed, it became harder to bear. Before, she used to come unannounced to lecture or make snide remarks. But lately she started bringing homemade meals, always in such large quantities that our family couldn't finish in one go, mostly Noel's favorites. At first, I thanked her for her efforts. Encouraged by this, Aria began bringing food daily. Sierra, I understand you're busy, but can't you come home earlier? The meals I prepare get cold because I can't get them inside. I want Noel to eat them while they're hot, Aria would say, her tone dripping with expectation. I'm sorry. I do want to come home early, but it's just a busy period at work right now, I'd explain, feeling the weight of guilt on my shoulders. But you say that, yet isn't it just that you're not good at your job? I heard on TV recently that people who are good at their jobs manage to leave on time. On the contrary, those who aren't good stay late and work overtime. It's like they were talking about you, Sierra. Aren't you, in fact, not good at your job? Aria's words stung, each one a sharp reminder of my perceived shortcomings. No, that's not it. I think I do my job well enough. I try to defend myself, but Aria's disapproving gaze made me feel small. I'm only making and bringing these meals because you always serve hot deli food. Don't you understand that if you come home late because of work, it's all for nothing? Don't you feel even a bit sorry for receiving all these meals I've made? Aria's frustration was palpable, her words hanging in the air like an accusation. I never asked her to cook for us. Neither did Noel. Of course, I thanked her and accepted the meals, but it was all Aria imposing her goodwill. It was a nuisance, albeit one I was grateful for. Then one day, Aria said something that pushed me to my limit. See, you're never home. When I visited, I suggested a solution to avoid wasting the meals Aria prepared. I think it's better if I also have a key to your house. That way, I can drop off the food anytime. Plus, with things being unsafe these days, I can quickly come over if something happens. Just ask Noel to give me a spare key, okay? Hearing this, I realized I couldn't handle it alone anymore. I consulted Noel about Aria's request. Noel, I need to talk to you about your mom. I can't handle this by myself anymore. What happened? Aria visits our house daily, always without any notice. I do my best to accommodate her when I can, but I can't always be available. I have my own schedule too, I explained. Yeah, I get it. And now she wants a spare key to our house. It's hard enough as it is, but if she can enter when we're not home, that's unbearable. If we give her one, she might start coming over all the time. Just the thought is frightening. I'm sorry to speak this way about your mom. Seriously, Mom said that. I don't like the idea of her coming in with a spare key either, Noel responded sympathetically. Okay, I understand it might be hard for you to say so. I'll talk to her clearly about it. Noel promised. I was glad I talked to Noel. The next day while I was at work, Aria called. Sierra, what time will you be home today? What do you mean? Well, I made too much beef stew, Noel's favorite. I thought I'd bring it over. So what time will you be home? I see. In that case, I should be home a little after 7, so I'll definitely be there by 7:30. All right, I'll come around then. Thanks. It might have been the first time Aria called before visiting. Noel must have talked to her already. I was impressed by how quickly things changed. But honestly, I didn't just want her to call before visits. I wanted her to stop visiting altogether. That was my true wish. But for now, I was genuinely happy she called in advance. Aria's visit frequency didn't change, but she started calling beforehand. That alone significantly reduced my stress. However, after a while, I noticed something odd. I started running into Aria more often when I was out. At first, it was just a coincidence. I initially brushed off the frequent encounters with Aria as mere coincidence. Whether it was during our family shopping trips on weekends, or buying toys with my child, or unexpectedly running into her at the station on weekday evenings, it all seemed too much to attribute to chance. Yet, oddly enough, these chance meetings never led to anything more than brief exchanges of greetings and explanations of what we were doing. Perhaps that's why, before I knew it, I had grown accustomed to this recurring situation. On one particular holiday, amidst these frequent encounters, we decided to tidy up the house in preparation for the delivery of the sofa set Noel had been eyeing for a while. Initially focused on cleaning the living room, where the new sofa would be placed, we found ourselves inadvertently getting carried away and tidying up the kitchen and bedroom as well. In a corner of the bedroom, we stumbled upon an inconspicuous outlet that seemed unlikely to ever be used. There we discovered a double outlet adapter plugged in, which neither Noel nor I remembered buying or placing there. Sensing something amiss, we silently checked all the outlets in the house. We uncovered mysterious outlet adapters in the kitchen and living room as well, making 3 in total. Though we had an inkling of what it might signify, we were too afraid to voice our suspicions. Isn't this like those things you see on TV sometimes? Noel finally broke the uneasy silence, voicing the question that lingered between us. Who would do this, and why? Mid-conversation, Noel abruptly asked about the whereabouts of our banking card, leaving me bewildered. Not understanding his concern at first, Noel clarified, "Is our banking card here? Has it gone missing?" His words sent a chill down my spine. With mounting unease, Noel gestured for us to move to the living room, cautiously suggesting that we might be bugged. "It's better not to talk about it here. We should be safe here. It's far enough," he whispered, trying to reassure me. As panic threatened to set in, I reached for the phone to call the police. But Noel stopped me, advising caution. "While it's good to report to the police, let's wait. Reporting without knowing who did it might just waste time," he cautioned, his voice tense with apprehension. "I had an idea. We can report it," Noel suggested. After sharing his plan with me, I felt an immediate urge to report it. But Noel seemed to have a hunch. That night, we carefully placed the double outlet back in its original spot, wrapping it in newspaper. With a fan blowing on it continuously, we set up a camera. At 2 a.m. the front door quietly opened, and a figure slipped inside, heading straight for the living room. As the figure entered, it picked up the double outlet, inspecting it closely. We captured every move on camera, and without warning, switched on the living room lights. The figure panicked at the sudden brightness. I was momentarily stunned, yet it also felt expected. It was Aria. "So it was you?" We need an explanation, Mom. Noel spoke calmly but with underlying anger. Yet Arya redirected her anger towards me. Sierra, what is this all about? Even Noel is looking at me like that. What's going on? Don't play dumb. What were you checking by sneaking into our house in the middle of the night? I demanded, struggling to contain my frustration. What does it matter? More importantly, why are you two so angry with me? Arya retorted defensively, failing to grasp the severity of her actions. This was all my husband's idea. We're the ones asking for an explanation, not you, Arya. If you have something to say, answer our questions first, I asserted firmly. Sierra's right. If you're going to play dumb, we'll call the police. Understand? Noel's voice was cold and Arya's demeanor shifted as she realized there was no room for negotiation. Reporting to the police? That's an overreaction. We're family. There's no need for such formalities. This is all a misunderstanding, so let's not make a big deal out of it, Arya pleaded, attempting to downplay the situation. A misunderstanding, you say? Then you better explain yourself clearly to clear it up. Unless we are not convinced, I challenge, my patience wearing thin. Still claiming it's a misunderstanding. At this point, there must be a good reason for it, right, Mom? Noel's tone was resolute. Well, it's just, loneliness. I was lonely, so I did it, Arya confessed, her justification falling flat in the face of our disbelief. Unaware that Arya had been eavesdropping and monitoring our movements, I had struggled with the invasion of my personal space. Blaming myself for not handling it well, I had pushed myself to the limit. But now, it was clear that Arya's eavesdropping had been the root cause of my discomfort all along. A mix of relief and anger surged within me as I realized it wasn't my fault, but rather Arya's actions that had caused this turmoil. Naturally, my tone and attitude towards her turned harsher. Do you really think that reason is enough for us to be satisfied? What you're doing, Arya, is absolutely inexcusable. Don't you understand that? I confronted her, my frustration palpable. Sierra's right, Mom. We can't accept that reason, and we can't forgive what you've been doing. I hate to say it, but what you're doing is wrong. If things continue like this, we can't have a relationship like before, Noel added firmly. Wait, Noel, I'm your parent. How can you say such terrible things to your own mother? You weren't like this before, were you? Arya's plea was desperate, seeking pity. But Noel remained cold and distant. Who's causing this, Mom? You won't admit your own actions and your reasons are selfish. It's obviously wrong. Enough is enough. We're leaving here. Of course, we won't tell you where we're moving. No. Why? Arya, please stop. You betrayed your own son. Don't you understand how he feels? I interjected, hoping for reconciliation. But my attempts fell on deaf ears. Arya's sudden outburst shocked me. It's all because of you. If you hadn't been here, I wouldn't have had to do any of this. If only you hadn't married Noel, she accused, her words filled with bitterness. I couldn't comprehend the sudden outburst from Arya. My fault? I managed to speak, echoing Arya's words. That's exactly what I mean. If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened. I do not acknowledge you as Noel's wife. You're not suitable. That's what I mean. Why? Why say such things so suddenly? It's a problem that you've lived this long without understanding such things. Realize it. It's true what they say. Children from low-level single-parent homes often have issues. Seeing you has only reinforced that belief, Arya retorted, her hostility evident. Noel, finally catching up to the situation, hurriedly tried to stop Arya. Mom, what are you saying all of a sudden? Do you realize what you're saying? He questioned, his concern evident. I thought you would feel constrained by marrying a woman from such a low-level family. That's why I was monitoring to prevent any problems. It's all for your sake, Noel, Arya confessed abruptly. Her words left us baffled, especially Noel, who seemed to be encountering this side of his mother for the first time. He was unsure how to react. My confusion differed from Noel's. I was puzzled by Arya's choice of words directed at me. They felt oddly familiar. Eventually, a memory resurfaced, and I decided to confront Arya. Arya, I heard you were a middle school teacher. Is that true? I asked, seemingly diverting from the situation at hand. Her exaggerated reaction to my question sparked a realization within me. If you were a middle school teacher, you must know many other teachers, right? There's a teacher I can't forget. Is she perhaps an acquaintance of yours? I mentioned a name, and Aria's reaction confirmed my suspicions. She became visibly shaken and stuttered in response. Why that name? I prodded further, now certain of the connection. It seemed my former middle school homeroom teacher was a point of contention. I thought so. It's connected. Seeing Aria's reaction, I was certain my suspicions were correct. The name I had mentioned was that of my middle school homeroom teacher. I explained. From your reaction, Aria, it seems you know her. Actually, I was treated terribly by that teacher and got into some trouble. It seems like you've heard about it, haven't you? I continued, unraveling the connection between Aria's actions and my past. The trouble with my former teacher was related to my family background. My parents divorced when I was in elementary school. I was taken in by my mom. I was told by my mom that the divorce was due to a personality clash, not because they hated each other. In fact, even after the divorce, my father and I kept in touch regularly. We even had family dinners together several times. Both my parents worked, but they had different life rhythms. There were many mismatches, so they decided it was better to live separately for both of their sakes, even though they were divorced. I didn't really feel constrained by my upbringing. However, my former homeroom teacher saw it differently. She labeled me as a problem child simply because I came from a single-parent family. Children from low-level single-parent homes are often problematic, she told me directly. No matter how much I tried to explain, she wouldn't listen. To make matters worse, she had a troublesome way of managing the class. She believed in uniting the class by targeting one student as the scapegoat. Unfortunately, I became that target because of my family background. I couldn't accept such reasoning and resisted desperately. However, as a middle schooler, resisting wasn't easy. When I was cornered beyond my capacity, I finally opened up to my parents. They acted quickly upon hearing my story, and there was an immediate discussion with the teacher. The issue was resolved swiftly. The teacher resigned as the class homeroom teacher and left the school unexpectedly the middle of the year. After confiding in my parents, I still vividly remembered the incident. It was a significant event in my life. So when Aria mentioned a former teacher, I reacted strongly. If she was acquainted with such a teacher, I could easily imagine what she had been told about me. But that didn't evoke any sympathy for Aria. I understood too well what she thought of me. Now, it seems, Aria, you didn't hear the whole story from your acquaintance. If you had, you wouldn't have done such a thing. I confronted her. Aria's attitude changed completely, realizing the gravity of the situation. No one could imagine being bugged by someone whose relative is a lawyer. It's obvious how dangerous that would be, I warned her sternly. Aria, overwhelmed by Noel's declaration, could barely respond. His decision to cut ties with her was final. The next day, at Noel's insistence, we reported the eavesdropping to my father and the police. Surprisingly, the former teacher had no knowledge of Aria's actions. However, given that the teacher's remarks have led to the situation, we demanded she never speak of it again. After ensuring all matters were resolved, our family moved, without informing Aria. As a precaution, we blocked Aria's contact information. Despite hearing about Aria's situation, I had no intention of forgiving her. I resolved to act as if Aria never existed, cherishing my family even more without her presence.